This is Nelson Ranch. It's been, well, 2 days since the update was released. So I want to talk about the balance changes that went into effect. Um, so I've referenced a number of people to look this up. Any mistakes that are made in this video are all my mistakes, nobody else's fault. So I'll say that at first. The person that was most useful for me was this guy here, Oishikanosuke. So I'm gonna, cite that as the main source. And here is what has happened in terms of the balance changes. And personally, I think what people want to know the most is the recovery skills. At least that's what I wanted to know. How have the recovery skills changed? So, one of the most important recovery skills is this one here, Kouten issoku, otherwise known as straight line recovery for the lower version. And basically, it used to say that it only procced in the straight line. Now it specifically says that it procs in the straight line of the middle leg. This is usable by every character in any distance. And this is now as good, if not better, than Maestro of the Curve. Maestro of the Curve is the famous skill that's given by Super Creek that multiple people have. But, this skill was guaranteed to go off in the middle leg. Now, this skill is also now guaranteed to go off in the middle leg, so you can't go wrong with this one. The other skill that was improved is Cooldown. Cooldown is the skill that was held by people like Measure McQueen. No, sorry. This version of Measure McQueen. Or by Rice Shower. And again, this one had the same fix as Kouten Issoku, and it will only proc in the middle leg of the race, and therefore it will be perfectly effective. This is only for the long distance, however. Hagane no ishi was a skill that was given by, what's her name? Satono Diamond, the support card, and most famously by Kiryuin in URA as a gold recovery skill, but it was famous for not proccing at all. In the first anniversary, they upgraded it so that it procs a little bit more, but not that much. And then in the second anniversary, they beefed it up even more by adding a lane change component. You get to move lanes faster when Hagane Nishi procs, but I think it's still pretty damn weak. Okay, so there was another skill that was given by Rice Shower. It was another skill that was totally useless before, and that was given by the support card by Rice Shower. So I might as well go to the support cards. So Satono Diamond support card. I'll show you the Hagane no Ishi. I think I've got Satono Diamond somewhere here. Here it is. This skill was totally useless. Hagane Nishi. But now, you get to move a little bit faster when you change lanes. So if you're blocked, you get out of that block. Yeah. So the other skill that is also pretty darn useless, was this skill given by Rice Shower. And it's this skill here. The lower version is Bitsubara Tank. The lower skill doesn't have any additional changes to it, so it's totally useless still. Kajiba no bakajikara now gives you increased speed. But you know what? This skill only happens, oh, it says increased acceleration. Includes increase in speed. But, I mean, it happens 30% of your health. So it's going to happen at the last leg. I mean, I suppose it's helpful, but I mean, I wouldn't go out of my way to, use this skill as well. Because the point is you actually want to use these skills when you are, before you hit the final leg. Because, if you have full health or full, if you have good enough stamina before you go into the final leg, you accelerate at the fastest moment. And if you don't, then you don't accelerate at the fastest moment. So getting this at this point in time is basically just too late. So again, I think it's a useless skill. I suppose if you can think of it as a speed skill, but I don't know. All right. Senpuku Taisei is the famous skill that Venerable Roy's Speed's SSR card gives. This skill is now perfectly usable. It basically now says that if you're in fourth place or below, it's going to proc. So, one of the problems with this skill is that there weren't that many runners or leaders, and there were just too many chasers and betweeners, and you could be in I think fifth place, and then it wouldn't proc. Now you could be up to fourth place, and it's going to proc. And it's kind of hard to imagine a race. I'm all talking about championship meetings here. It's really hard to imagine a race in which there's just like less than 3 runners and leaders. It's just really hard to imagine that kind of a race. You could almost guarantee solving that problem by sending out one runner or one leader, and all you have to basically wait for is somebody to put out 2 runners or 2 chasers or some combination thereof, and you solve this problem. So I think this skill is now perfectly reliable. The other skill that's been improved a lot is the skill that's held by Manhattan Cafe, the character. So Manhattan Cafe, the character, has the skill called Relax. This skill went off in the final leg, again, totally useless, like Kajiba no bakajikara. Now it's going to be useful because it's going to happen somewhere in the middle of the leg of the race. And all you have to be is got to be fourth place or below. So this skill is going to proc. So now Cafe is going to have Relax and Stamina Greed to help her run through long distances, super long distances. So, I suppose if you add this skill or some other skill, you can actually get her to proc Chris's Ogrecap's skill if you inherit that skill. So that's actually quite good. Deisei Chinchaku is the skill that Ayabe-san has, Admire Vega. She is. This skill is also given by the Speed SSR card by Air Shakur. I don't know why it took me that long to actually come up with that name. But this skill was famous for not proccing at all. Now it's probably going to proc quite often. I think it's going to be very reliable. I haven't used this, so I don't know for sure. But basically, if you're behind someone for 1 second, it's going to proc, and anytime after the 10-second mark. Anytime after the 10-second mark, if you're behind someone for 1 second, it's going to proc. So this is going to be fully effective and probably fully reliable as well. So a lot of the gold recovery skills have been buffed, and so people now have a lot more opportunities or options to actually pick and choose which recovery skill to use. You really don't have to just rely on a small select number of recovery skills. So that's good. All right. Now, I think the other thing that people want to know is the acceleration skills. And the acceleration skills, the acceleration skill that is given out that can be used by everybody is, of course, Ichijin no Kaze. Ichijin no Kaze is famous because it was given initially by Tokai Teo, Ichijin no Kaze here. This skill is also given by Kashimoto Riko, here she is. And here we are. Ichijin no Kaze. This skill basically increased your acceleration in a straight line, and that was it. Now, not only does it increase acceleration, it's also going to increase your speed, and it lasts 3 seconds. Now, it doesn't increase the speed a lot. It only increases the speed a little bit. But in the mile or the short, where the straight line happens towards the beginning or the very end, where you need that acceleration, especially in the end, this may come in very handy. So this is a skill that's probably worth taking now. for the mile or the short. It might even be worth taking if you're going to use, Kashimoto Riko as your character, as your support card. Excuse me, because it has a speed component attached to it. It's not just a pure acceleration skill. Okay, so now here's an interesting skill, and that is a skill where the gold version has not been introduced yet. The gold version of this skill is supposed to be called Sainensho, at least according to the patch notes. And Sainensho, or its lower version, Ninoya, is now a skill that is given to runners. And basically, it means that it's going to take off, it's going to give you acceleration sometime in the final leg. We don't know when, but it's phase random. So it's probably going to happen in the first half when it's like this. So it might happen towards the end of the first half, in which case it may be way too late. But the good news is, hey, for runners, even if you're not at the very front of the pack, when you hit the final leg, when angling scheming or Silent Suzuka's gold skill Tobosha runaway hits, you have this skill Ninoya that can proc to help you out, even if you're in second place. So it's no longer the end of the world if you're second place, and that basically means that just because you have a whole bunch of onige out there, if you're even third place, Ninoya will take off. Will send you off because it's an acceleration skill that has no component of what place do you need to be in the first and ninth place. In fact, you can be in ninth place and Ninoya will still kick you off. Now, I don't think you'll win as a runner, but there you go. So this is actually a pretty important skill, I think, that they've added. The key thing to remember is that it uses a little bit of your health, I think 2%, for it to activate. So as runners, you require a decent amount of health now, because a lot of the skills like turbos 1000%, I think it uses like 4% of your stamina, or 4% of your health. So if this uses another 2% on top of that, you do need a fair bit of health, so you do need a lot of stamina. But that's still, it adds, it helps runners. You don't have to be in absolute first place now, which is going to be harder with owning and running around. Okay. Leaders get Tsubazeriai. I don't have the support card, but it's a skill that's given out by Daiwa Scarlet, the SSR strength version, and it's also a skill given by KS Miracle, the guts card. And it's also a skill that is held by Take Shuttle, the summer version. This skill here. This skill now says that if you're towards the front and it doesn't say it in here, but what this means, they changed it so that this skill is in line with Sweep Tosho's skill, and it's going to happen. Oh yeah, it's in here. It's going to happen in the beginning of the final leg, so in the first quarter of the final leg. So it's going to be effective for a mile and short. So it's quite useful. How useful is it for the mid distance? If it happens early enough, it'll be very useful. If it happens for long distance, it has to happen almost in the beginning. But if you're lucky, then Tsubazeria will be useful for Meisho Doto, because Doto runs in the mid distance and long. It's less effective for her, but it's going to be still useful. So leaders got a boost in acceleration skill to be in line with chasers, and of course, that basically means betweeners are also going to get a boost in acceleration skill that's in line with chasers. Now, Norikai Jozu is great, because what this says is that not only are you going to get the acceleration in the first quarter, like with Sweep Tosho and the leaders, you only have to be in fourth place or below. So if you get to like first, second, or third, then this skill won't go off. But the fact that you can be in fourth place now, this is actually pretty damn good, because it's actually possible for betweeners to be in that fourth place location in a championship meeting. And previously, what that meant was that if you were in that 4th place location, this skill would not go off because Norikoi Jozu, if I remember correctly, would only proc if you're 6th place or below. And so, like, you do really well in the race and you're in the 4th place position, and then the final leg comes and you can't accelerate and you just get bypassed by everybody else. And that was just sucky. And now that problem is resolved. Now, if you're in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd place, the skill still won't proc, so there's that problem there. But considering that there's going to be a lot of runners and specifically owning it because turbo has now been put into place, I imagine everybody and their mom is going to use twin turbo. People really like twin turbo, so you're going to encounter one twin turbo, I'm pretty sure, in most of your races. So if there's a twin turbo up front, you're not going to be in the 1st place position, and if there's going to be another runner to match turbo, then I think the odds are really high that you're going to be in 4th place or below no matter how well you do. So this skill is now actually quite good. For the short distance, you have this skill by Sakura Bakushinyo called Sprint Turbo, which Bakushinyo gave as her support card as well. This skill is now useful because it's no longer a skill that goes off in a straight line. It's now a skill that goes off in the last final leg. So how effective is this? Well, the good thing about going off in the straight line is that Sprint Turbo could actually go off as soon as you got out of the gate, and that actually gave you a boost to acceleration. So if you are a runner or even a leader, Sprint Turbo was actually quite useful. When it happened at the very beginning of the race. And of course, when it happened at the end of the race, when you're in that straight line, and if the curve was short enough, like in the short distance 1200, Sprint Turbo was great because, as soon as you hit that straight line at the end, you just take off. Now it just says, you take off in the final leg. So, as long as it doesn't happen towards the very end of the 1st half of the final leg, you're going to be okay. But for short distances, the end of the 1st half of the final leg at 1200, it's 300. Yeah, no, I mean, even if it happens there, it's still going to be effective. So this skill is going to be pretty much effective no matter when it happens. So that's actually a good thing. But the point is, this skill is now going to be useful for betweeners and chasers. That actually makes a huge difference. So I think that's why it's actually interesting. And then there is Maruzensky, the original Maruzensky, the red Maruzensky skill, Axel Zenkai here, or acceleration. And this skill basically has now become a skill like Oguri Kep's Summary of the Curve. Summary of the Curve was given by Oguri Kep and was also given by Guts Yukino Bijin card. And Summary of the Curve basically made you accelerate at a curve. And so if there was a race where you have only one curve, like one long curve, like in a short distance or a mile, that was actually a useful skill to have. This skill, was not that useful because it just said that if you pass someone, your acceleration would kick off, which meant that if you pass someone somewhere in the mid level of the race, it was totally useless. But now this says that it's going to happen in the 2nd half of the race. So if it happens anywhere near the the part where you start to accelerate, then this skill will actually make you go zoom zoom. So just like that what do you call it, visual that you see of Maruzensky running in the highway, this is going to make you go, this is going to make you do that. So this actually matches that. So I think this is actually a good change as well. But then you got to be lucky. It's like Summary of the Curve. So do you feel lucky? All right. For the speed skills, yeah, skill by what's her name? Special Week, Zenshin Zende. I guess it's all body, all soul. Will now only happen in the 1st half of the last spurt. So it will happen in the after the it'll happen sometime in the 3/4 part of the race of the final leg of the race, which basically means that it's going to be fully effective. It's not going to proc right before you cross the goal line, so it's totally useless. That's not going to happen anymore. So this is a skill that's perfectly worth it to have. Special week, Narita Bryan has it as well. As you can tell, I've put in a lot of books into Narita Bryan. The skill, Keshino Kakugo, the skill that you could get from Agnes Tachyon in the previous scenario, Grand Live, will also have the same point of start, so it's not going to go to waste as well. More importantly, I think Jinso Kadan has now changed. Jinso Kadan is a skill that was famous for not proccing because you had to be in like a specific range of placement, and now that has changed. It's been changed to match up with you know, that famous skill, the acceleration skill, Norikai Jozu. Basically, this skill, Jinso Kadan, actually, I think Tamamo Cross also has this skill. Will happen if you're fourth place or below. Jinso Kadan is a great skill now. Yuo Maishin I don't think is a skill that any of the characters have. But the lower version is full throttle, this skill here. This skill here is now fully usable. It used to take 4%, like turbos, twin turbos, 1000% or 10,000%, whatever. It used 4%. Now it only uses 2%. And because it only uses 2%, it's actually very, very usable. So this actually benefits betweeners again. Daitan Futeki or Osore no Kokoro is this skill here. Osore no Kokoro is also for Daitan Futeki or Osore no Kokoro. Here it is also for betweeners, and basically your speed goes up and your acceleration goes up by a little bit. And by acceleration going up, this skill is now also quite usable as well. So that's good, right? Because if your acceleration goes up a little bit, then what that means is that you hit that target speed faster, and so you're actually running a longer distance at that fastest speed, and so that's actually good. So both of these skills have been buffed for betweeners. For chasers, Shippu Doto has been buffed. Shippu Doto is the famous skill that Hishi Amazon has. This basically says that in the last leg of the race, in the second half, during the last spurt phase, you will increase your speed. Now, in the past, this skill would often go off during the acceleration phase, and if your target speed increases during acceleration, it does absolutely nothing. So it was a useless skill. Now it won't be a useless skill. Now, the only problem is that this skill will only will only proc if you're fifth place or below. But by the time you're in that last, part of the race, the last spurt of the race, you kind of want to be in like first to fourth place, I think, even if you're a chaser. But what this means is that even if you're in the fifth place location, you got a chance to catch up and win the match. So this is actually going to be a very this will be a clutch skill. Do you want to use this skill or not? I don't know. Personally, I think Zenshin Zenda is better. But for Hishi Amazon, this actually is going to make you go very fast. So it's probably going to be worth it for Hishi Amazon. I think Amazon's been buffed a lot. Okay, so now let's do it for distances. Mairu no Shihaisha is the skill that Taiki Shuttle has. It's also the skill that Malazensky has. Right? No, wait, not this one, Malazensky. Sorry. Swimsuit Malazensky. Right. So Mairu no Shihaisha is the lower version is Sekkyokusaku. This only applies to the mile, but now it procs in the second half of the first leg. So this will basically allow people in the runners and leader category to expand their lead in the beginning of the game. And so this is actually now a very powerful skill. Shoryu no Shunen is the skill that I is the other skill that changed a lot. This is also a skill that was given by Speed SSR Air Shakur card that people made fun of because it's totally useless skill. Now it's not a useless skill. Now it's actually a very useful skill for runners and leaders, because what this says is that if you are closed by somebody coming from behind, then you increase speed and your acceleration also goes up. So even if it happens in the very beginning of the final leg where you need that acceleration, this skill will help. So it's actually a skill worth having. And I think the devs kind of know this, and that's probably why they gave this skill to the welfare speed card by Katsuragi Is in the new scenario, in the new event story, because it's going to be useful for runners and probably also leaders as well. So they gave it to her. Now, why does Hishi Amazon has it? She's a chaser. She's the one that's chasing, so it's a totally useless skill for her. Well, fear not. When you evolve the skill, this now suddenly flips. So instead of being chased, now it says when you are chasing, your speed goes up very much and your acceleration goes up by a little. So this is actually a great skill for her. So as I said, I think Hishi Amazon has been buffed. I'm only going to talk about the normal skills, and I'm not going to talk about I'm not going to talk about these. I'm not going to talk about these skills, how they changed, how the unique skills have changed in this video. It's just me too much. Kien Banjo or Tososhin is the skill that's given for mid distance, I believe. Does Dober have that skill? Kien Banjo, there she is. Tososhin is not in here. I believe Tososhin is actually given by the throne card. But anyway, it's a skill that now procs when you're anywhere between third to seventh place. So, it's actually not bad, but you know, it's okay. It recovers health and it increases speed. It's like a regular gold skill. So, it's not like special, but it's okay. It's usable now. Doto no Oyage is the skill that's given by what's her name? Doto no Oyage is a skill that's given by Mejiro Bright. I don't know who has it as a character. I know somebody's got it as a character. Where's Mejiro Bright here? She's running on that bicycle. Oh, here she is. And this basically says that when you pass somebody in the final leg of the race, you increase your speed and your acceleration goes up a little bit. So, that can't hurt as well. There's a positioning skill that changed, which is lightning step. Lightning step, or the lower version is Inazuma step. Previously, it used to have a component of where you had to be. You had to be towards the back, I think. But now they got rid of that. You just can move. It's a lane change component. Generally speaking, lane change skills are not that useful, except that in the case of Tokai Teo, where are you? Where are you, Teo? There you are. Lightning step basically is going to evolve to Teo steps, and this actually will increase your speed and your acceleration when you move sideways. And these sideways move skills are cheap, so this should be actually very useful for Teo because it's only 140 plus 140, so it's only 280. So that's basically really cheap, right? 280 is quite cheap. Gikoha is also pretty cheap as well. But a lot of skills like gold ship skills, like 170. So and then what's this one? Gokyaku is 160. And Kouten is 160, right? So, Tokai Teo skill is very cheap, and you get a nice skill that allows you to move and go faster. So that's actually good. One skill that I probably should put in, I'll put in later, but I didn't bother because it was a green skill. Was this? It only applies to Michido Dober, but now this green skill is going to increase your speed, intelligence, and stamina. In the past, it only increased your stamina and intelligence, and people thought that it was a useless skill. Now it's going to increase your stamina, intelligence, and speed. So it's probably worth it to take this skill, although it is a bit on the expensive side, 130. So you have to actually make this cheap. But yeah, so the Evo skills, the evolutionary skills, I may do, I may not do. I think it's probably just best because there's just so many characters. And on top of that, there's a whole bunch of characters that I don't own, so I really can't talk about them. So I'm probably not going to talk about the evolutionary skills. So this might actually be the last one on the skill change, but I hope this was good enough for you guys. I think I think I put in a decent amount of effort into it. I hope you guys enjoy it. And I think that's it. So I'm gonna put this up, and I'll see you guys around. Alrighty, take it easy. Bye bye.